Admiral James Stavridis, retired United States Navy, joins me. Good morning, Admiral. I must say, I have seen a lot of Army-Navy games. I have never seen a game like that. That was pretty fabulous, even though the team for which you were rooting did not win.
I agree. As everybody says, and it's so true, it's America's game. It's the game where everybody on the field is willing to lay down their life for everybody in the stands. These are great young men. And I was actually at the game, Hugh, which was fun. I'd never been in Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Beautiful facility. Yeah, wish it had ended a little bit differently, but what a classic, bite your nails to the very bitter end. And just, again, what a great pair of teams. It makes you feel good about America.
You know, Secretary of State Pompeo, a West Point guy, went up there as well. So all you guys always end up there, and gals, and you always find a way to get to the game. I've only been to one. I took the old Army-Navy train once when Larry Garrett was SecNav and had a wonderful time. But yesterday, I was babysitting, right? So I had my little toddler, little grandchild, doing laps around the house. And every time I came in, you know, Navy was out of it. It was 17-3 with 3 minutes to go. And
yeah. Now, talk about epic goal line stand. I got to admit it, by West Point. So a wonderful ending to the game in that sense of really competitive to the last couple of seconds. Good Lord. It was an outcome that made my heart sad on the one hand, but feel very full on the other, just looking at
I'm just curious, Admiral. Did you hang around and watch the replay board? Because I watched the replay 3 or 4 times because I thought he had gotten in, but then I was persuaded he didn't. What did the crowd do?
The crowd was going crazy on both sides, and the usual thing. I think anybody who looked at the replay, even the most rabid Navy fan, would have to say he probably didn't quite break the plane. So,
yep, my goodness.
Sail on to the next game.
As the announcer said, a game not of inches but of fingernails. Let's get to the serious stuff. The Washington Post has a story. U.S. seeking partners to safeguard ships after Red Sea attack. The Biden administration's call for expanding a multinational naval force comes as Houthi militants in Yemen have vowed to target vessels bound for Israel. All right. Do we not have enough ships on our own, Admiral?
Well, 2 things can be true at the same time. One is, globally, we don't have enough ships in our Navy, and you and I have had this conversation for years. We're under 300. China's over 350. We are committed around the world. So fact number 1, we don't have enough ships. Now, fact number 2, let's go to the piracy issue that we're seeing here. And by the way, as you know, I commanded counter-piracy operations against Somali pirates for 4 years when I was Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. You are always smart to try and get as many allies as you can into the game. And think of it this way, Hugh. This is an overall water space that's like half the size of the United States of America. If you have 5 ships, that's like having 5 police cars patrolling half of the United States. Even if you had thousands of ships, you would still need more. So why not try and get as many allies as you can into the game? It's what we did against the Somali pirates. It's good policy to bring them in. But I'll stop where I started, which is, you're right. We don't have enough ships.
Admiral, the Carney's doing a fine job. The Carney is named, by the way, for the American audience, for my mother-in-law's uncle-in-law, if you want to follow that, the CNO Carney. And they are doing a great job. But, I mean, it's going to take a few more of those interceptors, isn't it, if the Houthis keep this up?
More Aegis cruisers and destroyers would be great. And by the way, it's not just Carney. You've seen USS Mason shooting down, a couple of other destroyers in the mix. But yes, to really create an overall air defense picture, you're going to need more ships there. And frankly, our allies have pretty good air defense destroyers, frigates. Those can be used in this mix as well. And by the way, yeah, Admiral Carney was a former chief of naval operations, much beloved by the Navy in the post-World War II era.
Now, Admiral, can you talk to us a little bit about how the Saudis and the Emiratis were not able to beat the Houthis? Because the UAE's pretty doggone good. Their special operators were under your command in Afghanistan. I know they served side by our special operators for, I think, most of the war, the long war. How is it they were not able to defeat this band of ragtag rebels?
There's a one-word answer to that. It's Iran. Tehran supplied a pretty extraordinary level of weapons, both defensive and offensive, logistics support, and above all, training. And let me make a point about the takedown of a merchant ship about 3-4 weeks ago by these Houthis. If you think they're a ragtag bunch, Google Houthi takedown of Galaxy. That's the name of this huge, huge ship they took down. It looked like a Navy SEAL team in action. It was helicopters rappelling down, fully dressed out, highly trained, very professional. So the short answer to the question, how did this ragtag bunch take on Saudis and Emiratis, who get a lot of equipment, a lot of training from us? The answer is Tehran did a pretty good job getting them up to scratch.
Perfect transition to this story. A fellow by the name of Sachi Hanagbi, who is the National Security Advisor for the Israeli War Cabinet, said over the weekend, quote, "We can no longer accept the Radwan force sitting on the border. The Israeli public understands that the situation in the north needs to change, and it will change. If Hezbollah agrees to change it diplomatically, that's good. If not, we will have to act. We will have to ensure that the situation in the north is different." What do you understand that to mean, Admiral?
I think the Israelis, having watched these brutal, awful assaults from Hamas, which shocked them. They didn't think Hamas was capable of doing it. Now they're looking to the north, and here's the added degree of difficulty with Hezbollah. Unlike Hamas, which had a fairly limited supply of surface-to-surface missiles, in the north, Hezbollah has somewhere between 130 and 150,000 missiles. That's where Iran has really laid in the missile capability. And that, Hugh, is an existential threat to Israel. There's enough firepower up there, despite Iron Dome, despite David's Sling, despite all the air defense. That could be a crushing blow, for example, to the city of Tel Aviv. So I think the Israelis, having been fooled into complacency by Hamas, have no intention of allowing a sense of complacency with what Hezbollah could do. So make no mistake, when the Israelis are done with the Hamas operation, I look for a significant change and a Israeli attack vector to the north.
Now, Admiral, let's pause on that. I spent Friday talking with Dr. Larry Arnn of Hillsdale about Churchill's first volume in his World War I memoir, and the initial class of forces between the German-Austrian forces and the French and English forces was so far beyond what anyone expected. No one actually had thought it through how devastating. I mean, more people were lost in the Battle of the Frontiers than we lost in Vietnam. And that was in 1 month in World War I. What do you think would come from an Israeli-Hezbollah war?
Incredibly difficult ground fighting, several degrees of difficulty higher than what we're seeing now. And these numbers would be devastating for the Israeli military. Again, on a population-adjusted basis, Israel has already lost the equivalent of 3,500 soldiers in the fight against Hamas. On U.S. context, about 100 Israelis were 35 times their size, 3,500. That's in 2 months. Hugh, in 20 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, we lost 7,000. So this is going to be a brutal fight. It'll be, I think, very much akin in terms of casualty numbers on population-adjusted basis to what you saw in Europe in both the First and Second World War.
Admiral, thank you for that clarity. I don't think the Israelis are bluffing. Last word to you. Do you think they're bluffing?
I do not. And put yourself in their shoes and think about your family under 150,000 potential rockets. You are not going to allow that to continue, having gone through October 7th.
I agree. Admiral James Stavridis, thank you. Follow him at StavridisJ on X, the site formerly known as Twitter. And if you look up any of his books for Amazon, you will find that to be quite an amazing selection of Christmas presents.